Hi, welcome to Nina in the Kitchen, where today we are making cookies that are a great holiday treat, and they're so simple and so delicious. It's orange cranberry shortbread cookie. This recipe can be done completely in your food processor, and it goes like that. You can also do it in a stand mixer or a hand mixer. You can probably do it by hand. I'll show you how to do this in a food processor, and I'll talk about the other methods as we go. Let me show you the ingredients. Let's start with the flour. You're going to want 300 grams of all-purpose flour. That's 2.5 cups. In total, you're going to use 3/4 cups of sugar. That's 150 grams. 100 grams goes into the dough, and 50 grams, 1/4 cup, goes into dry cranberries. We're going to chop this in the processor. You can do it by hand, of course. And I'm going to add the zest of 1 large orange. This is about, I would say, 1.5 tablespoons. You can do a medium to large orange. I mean, there's nothing wrong with putting a little extra zest in there. You're also going to need 1 teaspoon of almond extract, or 8 to 12 drops of almond oil if you have oils. This is 2 sticks of butter. That's 1 cup. That's 226 grams. This is unsalted butter. You can use salted if you like, because another thing we're going to add to all of this is just 1/4 teaspoon of salt. That's it for the dough ingredients. Now, at the end, what I'm going to do is, this is 1 egg white with a teaspoon of water, just to mix in, to denature the egg white, to thin it out. And I'm going to put that on the log that we're going to make. And on the outside, just roll this in. This is a sugar glitter. You can use sanding sugar. It's kind of cool looking. I thought it would make a nice little shine on the outside of the cookies. I'll probably have that all over my face and go out not knowing it. I'm also going to chop up these pistachios and roll some of the cookie dough in pistachios, so that you're going to have an orange cranberry pistachio experience. All right, let's get started. The thing you want to do is chop your craisins. That's going into the processor, along with 1/4 cup, 50 grams of white sugar. I'm also going to put the orange zest in here right now, because the agitation with the sugar and the cranberries will sort of spread that orange flavor a little better than if you don't put it in with the sugar. So that goes in. And then you just pulse this until it comes to a very fine chopped product. And by the way, I pulled this out. This is a rasp that you would use for zesting your orange. I'm sure you know that. You guys are smart. But, and I know that by the things you write to me. So if you don't know how to zest an orange, very simple. You buy one of these babies, they're wonderful, and then you just run it along the orange. It collects in here, and you can see how much you have. So it's a great item to keep in your kitchen. Okay, this will take probably 7 or 8 pulses, 1-second pulses. Well, this is all pretty fine, so that's perfect. And then I'm going to take this out, just keep it off to the side. And without cleaning the bowl, I'm going to add the pistachios and chop those up, because I want those fine chopped too. They're going on the outside of the cookie. And now I'm just going to chop the pistachios. Same thing, I'll pulse it until I get to something that's like a very heavy cornmeal, maybe like grits. This looks pretty good. You have some bigger chunks, but they're not too big that they're about the size of the cranberry, so that's what I wanted. Some of it is dust. You just want to make sure that you don't go so far that you start making a paste. That's delicious too, but it's not what we want here. After blitzing up the pistachios, I took them out, and now they're going off to the side. And I'm going to measure out 300 grams of flour, 2.5 cups. So all of our dry ingredients are going into the bowl. So I'm going to scale this rather than measure it out. One less thing to clean, and yeah, it just makes life easy. Okay, there we go, 303, I'll take it. This is 100 grams of sugar, that goes in, and your salt. By scaling, I mean this is sitting on a scale. It's also black, so you can't really see it very well, but you have to trust me, I guess. So now I have 1/4 teaspoon, 2 pinches of salt. This is going back on here, and all I'm going to do is just buzz this up just to mix it up a little. The next thing to go in is your butter. And if you're using a processor, again, you want your butter to be cold because this works so fast that it's going to chop this butter up in no time at all. The way that I cube my butter is I cut it in half lengthwise, and then I tip it over and do it again. And then you just cut about every 1/2 inch. And here are 4 very nice pieces. I don't have to separate them going into a processor because the processor, again, it works so quickly that will do it for you very easily. Okay, let's put this all together. So butter goes in. You just want to spread it around. And again, if you're using a mixer and not a processor, you want your butter to be softer. Room temp is fine. And now I'm just going to blitz this up, pulse it, and you want it to be sort of like cornmeal at the end. That was 9 pulses, and I think that looks pretty good. Now, as you can see, if I bring this together, it just falls apart. So what I'm going to do about that, I'm putting 1 teaspoon of almond extract. Oops. 1 teaspoon in there, and also the juice of half an orange. So a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons. You just want to bring the shortbread together. This will give it a nice flavor. That's about 1 tablespoon, I would say. You just want this to come together, sort of like a pie crust. Now I put 1 teaspoon of almond extract in here, but if you like using oils, you can use orange oil or almond oil or both in this recipe, and you're going to want to make the equivalent of 1 teaspoon, which is 8 to 12 drops depending on how strong you like it. And let's just give this a whirl. And now you see it's still falling apart, which is good because it's a shortbread. So you want your shortbread to be melt in your mouth. And it's holding, but yet it's very crumbly. So this is perfect. I'm going to put these craisins back in. So this is the craisin, orange, and sugar mix. And if you don't want to roll your cookies in something, like I'm going to do the egg wash and then roll it in sugar. If you don't want to do that, you can put your nuts inside of this, inside the cookie, but I just thought it'd be more festive with something rolled on the outside. So I'm going to just pulse this a few times just to mix the ingredients. You don't need to chop anything any longer. And there we are. I think that whoever it was who created this processor should have a national holiday because it's such a wonderful tool. I had a cooking class where I made everything in the processor just to show people how to use it, because I know a lot of people have their processors, but they're on a shelf somewhere collecting dust. If you want to see some of those recipes, let me know in the comments. Okay, now I'm just going to take this out, form it into a log, and it has to go into the fridge for about 2 hours because you want a nice stiff dough, and you can leave it up to 72 hours. At this point, all that you need to do, I'm just going to give this a stir while it's still in the bowl, just to make sure that those cranberries are distributed evenly. It looks pretty good though. All right, and I'll just put this out here. What you want to do is create a log or two. You don't have to do this in one piece. In fact, I think I'm going to do that. You just want to gather this together. Make a little mountain range. And then you smush it. You put a little more on here. So when this is cut, you want the diameter of this cookie to be 2 inches, and it's 2.5, so that's pretty good. I think it just needs to be rounded, and that will be a 2-inch diameter. So you want to get this as even as you can. This gets chilled in the fridge. This is a rolled cut cookie. Here's what you need to know about oven temps. If you go with a 350-degree temperature, which is 175 degrees Celsius, if you do that on a rolled refrigerator cookie, you get an even bake, and it helps the cookies actually hold their shape. If you go with a lower temp, 325 Fahrenheit or 160 Celsius, you will get a soft, chewy, tender center, and the edges, it kind of prevents the browning around the edges, so it won't get crispy very quickly. So if you like soft and chewy and tender, 325, 160 is your temp. If you want a crunchy cookie, you can go up to 375 or 180 Celsius, and that's going to give you a firm cookie in the center and a golden brown edge. So when you have something in plastic wrap like this, you saw that I rolled it up. You want to keep everything round and as even as possible, and you can do that at this stage. And then for the ends, these little ends here, what you want to do is use those as handles. You can pull this towards you or push it away from you, whatever's easier for you. I'm just going to pull it towards me. You lift, you pull it, and you see it's twisting itself. And it's also helping me to keep these cookies round, and it helps to round it out and actually even it out. And you can finish that with your hands. And then this goes into the fridge, like I said, for 2 hours if you want to bake it today. If you want to make it ahead, this can stay in your fridge for 72 hours. I can show you that one more time. I have a little more dough. I'm putting the dough that I just made in the refrigerator, and I had dough in there that I made yesterday, and that's coming out. This is why my neighbors love me. I get them fat. I just made this egg wash. Here's my pastry brush. And here comes one of the logs. The first thing I'm going to do is put the sanding sugar on one roll. I'm just going to paint this with some egg wash. And you want to cut this about 1/4 of an inch. I wouldn't go any less than 1/8 of an inch, but even that is really a little too thin. 1/4 inch is perfect. That's 5 millimeters. And then I'm just going to put this just want to make sure I can roll this log. That's going to be so pretty. I'm using a serrated knife. I think that's a good choice. If it breaks, it's because it's still a little too cold. This should sit for about 5 minutes and that won't happen. If it's not perfectly round, let it sit and you can push it into shape. Let me just grab my cookie sheet. These cookie sheets are made from macarons, the little French cookies. If you want tiny ones, you use these little inner pieces. These are going into the oven for 12 minutes, 10 to 12, but I think at 350, 12 is going to be perfect. You don't want these to brown. You want the edges just to be a little golden and the centers to be still sort of look rather raw. I know that sounds weird, but it'll be cooked. Before I put these in the oven, I'm going to make another sheet with the pistachios. Okay, so I rolled the pistachios. I don't think you needed to see that, but that's how they're going to look. So we have some rustic and some glitzy Hollywood. And these will come out in about 12 minutes. I'll let you know all about it. As you can see, I've been munching right along. This is the second batch. I made these thinner, and I like these better. The first batch took longer than the 12 minutes I told you because I cut them a little too thick. But they're delicious. They have the cranberry becomes these little jammy bits, so you have a little chewy thing going on. I love the nuts around the edge. Really, really good. The whole cookie, it's not too sweet. It's a lovely bite. My food philosophy, if you don't know this already, is I want it simple and I want it delicious. And if it's not those two things, you will not see it here. This is what they look like after you plate them. These are the pieces that had the pistachio, and these are the little glitzy. You can see a little shine on these. They need to stay on the cookie sheet for about 5 minutes or so before you move them because they're too delicate to move when you first come out of the oven. They'll just fall apart. But you can use that to your favor. If they come out and they've spread and you don't like how they look, maybe they're a little oblong, you can take a butter knife and just kind of push them into shape and make them round again, which I did not do very well, but you'll do it better than me. Anyway, enjoy this recipe. It's a great one. And like all my recipes, they are below the description. Just keep hitting the more prompt. You can copy paste and print it on your home printer and keep it for yourself. And like and subscribe. I always forget to say that. And have a great holiday. Thank you for watching. Bye, guys.